Hi, I'm Irene Hartman. I write under the name Renny Hartman, which I've used for many, many years now. Um, in 2016, I collected a number of poems that I had written some years ago that had all been published in small magazines and newspapers and various strange places, and put them together and published a book that I called Uncommon Groundcover for one of the poems. And then this is me again on the back. I am from Tom's River. My mother actually was born here also on a house that no longer exists, an old farmhouse out where Route 37 and Lakehurst Road come together. And her great great grandparents had come down to Tom's River in 1835 and bought the property there. I started writing poetry in what we call junior high, everybody now calls intermediate school, when we had a little poetry book that we were going to put out as a class, and then later in high school with the high school book at Tom's River High School, which is now Tom's River High School South, and continued through college and after college. I have more poems around somewhere than I have collected because when I separated from my now ex-dead husband, I left boxes of material that I didn't take with me. But I am going to read some from Uncommon Groundcover, and the first one I read will be its name poem, and it is a theme that I have used over and over, that life is more difficult and things are more lurking about than we're aware of. Okay, there they're at it again. Tickweed and the yellow nicotine plant invading the honeysuckle. Even the breathless afternoon surrounds them like a hollow inside of a wordless can the world produce such abundance of small unrecorded creatures, wormy things that stroll vines, and the two-headed black wasp sitting meditatively on her latest corpse. They have a positive affinity for DDT, dreading only the odor of malathion and certain human maliciousness, if they do indeed dread it, or merely respond in kind. A million eggs here for this, a million eggs for that leaf. The stone bug waiting to snap off the mower blade, and the blue burr learning to envy the summer drought, and the sifting dry husks of today's locust slaughter, muttering triumphantly of new deserts moving in all directions. And I end with a poem that's kind of similar, so I'll read the warp and the woof also. Winged, dark, duck-billed creatures settle on the front lawn, where a drying ocean turns to salt, their eggs hard-shelled like turtles, and their cries shill with electronic engineering. Some paleontologist is sifting through the drive to find petrified nests of seaweed, while they are drying in dreams of leathered descendants, nothing left of their raucous mating except the odd jawbone, and a mountain of oyster shells, black with the doors and marshes grown into the hybrid grass, where no poison is effective because their roots are deep in another millennium. I will go to some humor. I actually like poems that have some humor to them. I had a poem I no longer have a record of. Mexico City is sinking. That's all I can remember of it. That's the title in the first line. I think the second line was, and Venice too. Actually, I just read Mexico City is in bad shape for its sinking. It's built in a swamp. Unfortunately, because of river transportation, many big cities were built in swamps. So this is Soup Song. You can find anything in cans. Someone found a worm in the soup. I found a key. It unlocked a sparrow, and the sparrow sang in reds and blues and changed into a spark that struck a light, not so much, you say, but just enough to hold back the night. And I have one that I think is funny, that when I published this, the printers pulled. And I think I can tell you why, but they didn't tell me. I would say, don't use this publisher, who was part of Amazon, and therefore I thought would be a good choice. This is called Musing. O errato, old tubular whorebat, reclining in your naked laces among those silken quilts, woven patch by patch from sad caresses in sodden orgies. Where shall we read today? I'm sure that's why they pulled this poem. Howling owls and alley cats, or orange squids and lipsticks, perhaps the corpse with honeysuckle. What marvels can we mate with a lemon twist of wrist and the joyful consent of willing imagination? Let's see. And the delight in mingling indiscriminate genres with pagan religiosity, toying with their leisure with agile muscle and eager lusts and plastic dreams? What better how you can know it? Pinch of ass with Mayflower, for the driving thrusts of motorcycles, dined on mincemeat to penetrate the slippery folds of peppered brains. Stir on, you embattled pimp, and find in your turgid quill may poison Flint and Hefner after all. Of course, Flint and Hefner are now both dead. But I thought that was funny. I'm going to read The Old Woman, which I use sometimes in my classes, because when I wrote the poem, I was 22 years old. This is before computers, before word processing. I used to write with a Parker pen with black ink. I thought that was really the most perfect way to write. And I thought old people were a little funny, as I think my students probably think I'm a little old and quirky and funny. And I have sometimes used this as a narrative poem because there is a little bit of a story in it. The old woman, a conditional state, opened a picture and walked through a wall. This is very peculiar building, thought she, still determined to pass Times Corner and find the hall. The priest, a published writer of books, questioned roaches and rats, looking for the body. This is clearly defiant of theology, thought he, or someone has played me a trick low and shoddy. The funeral director, a salesman of sorrow, arrived with his pitch and miniature lead box. We'll need a closed casket, thought he. To view this departure would call untold shocks. They buried her in name only, between the quantum theory and spatial parallels. The mourning relatives were later plagued by the dreams of the dead singing fond farewells. I have to sometimes explain to my students the idea of parallel universes, that you can walk through some portal and be in another universe. Somewhat on that same theme is one of the first poems I ever had published once I was out of college, called The Old Grave. The old grave, you must listen, for he murmurs sunken smiles among the whispered scents of dying violets. A wind of bees will mask his tale. You must listen, for the nerve which trickles on is faint with weeds, and prying roots, like anxious fingers, read the braille of his thin tail. I still like that. Another early poem was about my cousin who created a guitar. He built a guitar with rosewood and love. I'm not sure where I marked it. It is called My Cousin and Guitar. He is now, of course, many years retired. He is a great-grandfather. Where are you? Maybe I will skip this and come back to it. I have a number of poems about music and musicians. I studied piano for 10 years and played as accompaniment to choruses and bands and in a couple small bands when I was in high school and college. So this is My Cousin and Guitar. The notes, the farthest spices, cinnamon the night, tease the nose and flavor the roots which grow mellow with pruning. The rhythm hammers shooting stars into cat's eyes, mined with jade. Amber lights wipe the walls with soft nests for orchids. On the stairs Chopin sighs a clear aroma. Wine and thyme and tea is Segovia. The Spanish song, the desert call of olives. Dusk mixed mist polished along the spines of angels, rubied with lips and lashes. Each spangle broken strokes the moon, Brussels spirals in smooth spruce and rosewood, ebony and twists of nylon. It's understood. The frets are pearled with action quick as fur. He peeled from his nails. The long months, lost friends, grown dark and pale, thin, withered, and disappear, while memory slams windows on fear. It's a pattern poem with the theoretical oscillation of wavelengths. I'll do another one that's not in here, and then maybe one after that, and finish up. This is a poem I like very much, and I'm sorry it is not in this collection, but I found it after, excuse me, I can't see what I'm reading, but I found it after I had done the book. It's called 10 O'Clock on the River. Ah, the peaches of evening fade flat and purple, only you and I and the cedar and salt, soft bath for easily sideward moving crabs, a slow soup, even the jellyfish asleep on the bay tide, glow the phosphorescence in the spray, eyes on the river, fires in the sandbars, 5 fathoms on my mind. You can go boating at night in the river in the summer and see phosphorescent jellyfish. They are like stars in the bay, although they are an unfortunate encroachment and they are not good for the health of the bay, but they are very pretty. I'll do the fragments, wherever they are. These are just short little poems. That touch on a minute. Where does it say fragments? 21. And I have 4 of them. This is called Fall, for the season of fall. Fall pulls down winter as the child pulls down the hems of all his mothers. This is anger. Anger is pepperoni pizza, acne on lava, artillery across the molten river. This is inventions. No matter what, I am between time remembered and time will. I am the unrecorded philosopher, inventing regret on Thursday, losing count on Friday. And this is old age again. Old age, who would go there? Not many maps. Winter, the only season. And I'll do a Hoboken poem. I was living in Hoboken when most of these were published. This is Sunrise in Hoboken, and it's actually based on Emily Dickinson poem, so it says for Emily Dickinson. In drag again, knees shattered from encounters with skyscrapers, but still smiling star thistles. The saffron dancer, waltzing in the paler night, discards her amethysts and corals like a flower girl scattering fire showers across the bleeding river. Dickinson wrote, "How does the sun come up in amethysts and corals?" Okay? I think that's enough. Thank you.